I really tried to like Playboi Carti, y'all. I really did. So in the spirit of furthering the practice of the Unk sciences and showing love for the babies, I love y'all. After years of not being able to tell the difference between Playboi Carti, Gunna, and numerous other, as Curtis King calls them, small voice rappers, I decided to give a chance to Playboi Carti. And over the past few weeks, I tried to listen to his 3 studio albums, Playboi Carti, Die Lit, and A Whole Lot of Red. I say try because I gotta be honest, I barely was able to really fully listen to most of the songs on these albums. They kept bouncing right off me. This is not a Playboi Carti hate video. Just hear me out, okay? First, I want to make it clear, I am an old head, but I'm not that type of old head. I'm not like other old heads. I ain't even that old. I don't take joy in not liking new things. In fact, it's the opposite. I find myself frustrated and sad that there are things that bring young people joy that I can't find much joy in. I'm a lover of joy. Joy brings me joy. But Playboi Carti did not bring me joy. He brought me pain. And I don't mind the rage beat sound, by the way. I really like a lot of XXXTentacion's mixtape stuff. I really like Mario Judah whenever he decides to drop music. Plus, he's like the most adorable edgelord ever.
On the fist bumps, you didn't say Rockstar. All right?
Rockstar! Yeah!
Thank you, Word. I love you.
I love a few songs from Lil Uzi Vert, Rico Nasty, etc. I also love me some Denzel Curry, Kenny Mason, who y'all know I can't stop talking about. I even warmed up to JPEG Mafia and what's the dude's name? Made the SpongeBob song. Billy Woods. Billy Woods. I was wrong about Billy Woods. 2 thumbs up from Unk. Further, understand that hip hop has always had its share of unconventional weirdos and characters. People like Kool Keith, Cannibal Ox, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, and plenty of others that I know Babilla is having to Google to figure out who the fuck they are. They flouted hip hop standards and made rap weird and cutting edge decades ago. And more importantly, understand that like new and cutting edge hip hop sounds are always initially met with confusion and resistance by established rap fans and critics. It happened dozens of times over the years. I'll never forget when crunk started becoming a thing and how many tried to shit on it as not being real rap, and then crunk was the dominant sound of the culture for a decade. I am not so much of a hip hop purist that I can only listen to old school and Griselda. Like, y'all see me wearing System of a Down and Tool shirts. My favorite rap song of all time is a dark sci-fi, maybe romance song from LP. My favorite rock band is the Mars Volta. I have a nuanced listening ear that likes a lot of things and opens me to a lot of different types of music, except Playboi Carti, because I don't know if I would call what he's doing music. I really want to call it anti-music. Respectfully. Oh, Turb gonna be so mad. I swear, Turb, it's all love. It just follow me for a little bit longer. I ended up texting back and forth with Anthony Fantano on this one because I felt like an old video of his was really relevant to like what I was going through here. It's one like years ago where he was talking about Lil Yachty and saying that he theorizes that Lil Yachty kind of represents hip hop entering a punk rock phase. I'll let Lil Bill give you the full story from his video on punk rock and black punk rock in general. But in a nutshell, punk rock is very much an avant-garde wave of rock music that was born in part as a response to rock music becoming stale and formulaic and establishment. As rock emerged as the most popular form of music in the 70s and 80s, it left behind some of its radical aesthetics and veneer. It also became more technical and complex, and there was a desire by some to strip away some of the pomp and circumstance and get back to the intense, aggressive, and simple rhythms and melodies that made it popular in the first place. And this was helped along by the fact that a lot of punk rock's early progenitors were relatively unskilled garage bands who didn't have the proficiency to play like, I don't know, Eddie Van Halen or something. But they did know how to strum a few notes, get a good rhythm and bass line, and get the crowd hype in a dive bar. But most significantly to like this topic, punk represented an artistic tradition that is really like replete throughout history, where a major social or cultural movement often begets a response to that movement that is focused on a flaw or blind spot that the original movement missed. The Enlightenment was a response to classical religious antiquity. Postmodernism was a response to Enlightenment. Dadaism was a response to the World War. I've been watching a lot of CJ the X videos. And I think in a sense, this same thing happened in hip hop at almost the same timeline. Hip hop starts in the 70s, peaks in the 90s. By the 2000s, it settled into the worldwide commercial phenomenon that we know today, but that came at a cost of shaving off the rougher edges and, much like rock, streamlining what the music needed to be in order to reach the highest markets and make the most money. By 2010, it's pretty clear that hip hop, while still producing some good music, is incredibly formulaic at the mainstream level. I'll never forget first hearing J. Cole on his mixtapes and thinking that he had a lot of potential, and then hearing his first album and feeling like it was the most generic, overproduced commercial rap I had ever heard in my life. And that's not just J. Cole, that's a lot of rappers in that kind of in-between generation, that last generation of mainstream hip-hop dominance. It's why so few rappers from that specific era are still here and significant today. So it makes sense that by the late 2010s, you see a similar punk rock adjacent response from hip-hop as young artists with an irreverent disposition to the norms of hip-hop start to make their own music. And add to that the fact that hip-hop became more accessible than ever for aspiring rappers in the 2010s. In rock music, you still had to have a certain level of money just to be able to afford even the crappiest guitar or drum set. So a certain type of kid was never able to start making music in rock, but in rap, if you had access to a computer, you pretty much had everything you need to get started. Further, tons of inner city schools and community centers and even libraries developed programs to give access to these musical tools to a generation of rappers who were growing up influenced by a mixture of Wayne and Kanye West and Future. Guys like Chance the Rapper give credit to the fact that his school had a hip hop program, and that's how we got started. Amongst this era of SoundCloud mumble rap, you have some gems, with Cardi being one of them, except while I can at least identify the quality elements of many a SoundCloud little voice guy from that era, I found myself incredibly frustrated when I tried to listen to Cardi. Like, I remember when, not Lil B, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang. I don't remember what this dude's name is.
Little Pimp.
But like, if you hear that song, that's very much what punk rock was. Very repetitive, very simple, but incredibly catchy. It's still music, even if it's incredibly dumb. And that particular rapper obviously was so insignificant in the long run that I can't remember his fucking name now. But Cardi takes this rejection of convention to a different level with his music. A lot of his beats are inconsistent in the quality of the melody. Some of them are just annoying to hear. Some kind of just drone on in that repetitive rage beat style. The beats that are good and catchy are still marred by the fact that half the song is ad-libs, or by the fact that when Cardi is rapping, he seems indifferent to actually rapping on beat. Playboi Carti legit sounds like he's making fun of mumble rap to me. Like, it's literally what an old head would sound like if he were trying to explain why mumble rap is bad. Just triplet flows of nonsense, a million ad-libs and producer tags. I gotta put my locks in front of my face. Right, here we go. Hey, Lil Bill, you wanna come out here?
Lil Bill on the track, ho.
This is gonna be the funniest thing to witness out of context. This brings me back to the whole anti-music conversation that I had with Fentano, which mirrored things I saw in my comments. All shade aside, that makes Cardi kind of a genius. His music taps into this deep zeitgeist of Gen Z specifically, a generation that, unlike millennials, has had little to nothing in society to be inspired by or connect with any form of sincerity or devotion. When I was young, I was still brought up in a manner where it was rational for me to believe in social institutions and see the American project as one of value, to feel like the mores and norms of my culture were valid, whether it be American culture, black culture, whatever. That structure and stability and meaningfulness and sincerity makes like those things within art useful and meaningful to me. Even as I've had to shed many of those beliefs as an adult, I still got to appreciate them and like have them be foundational to my childhood. Whereas Gen Z has pretty much since they were children never had that. They've only seen the obvious glaring contradictions in our society. They've seen their elders fake allegiance to them. Sincerity to them is useless and illogical. Only nihilistic detachment makes sense and remains. And if there were some adjectives I could use to describe Cardi's anti-music, it'd be nihilistic and detached. When I compare Cardi to Uzi, Rico Nasty, etc., I see how in many ways those folks still like care about what their music sounds like. I can attach to the effort being put in to design the tracks, and this shows through the way their songs are constructed. But with Playboi Carti, all I can think is how it doesn't feel like he's all that serious about the music that I'm listening to. He's basically just wasting his time and hoping I catch the vibe. And I don't know if that's genuine or design, but either way, I find myself feeling almost offended for him wasting my time with some of the stuff that I heard. Playboi Carti is the musical equivalent to Tim and Eric's Awesome Show, if you remember that on Adult Swim. It was an anti-humor show that a lot of people found repulsive, but it had a huge fan base for similar reasons that Playboi Carti has a huge fan base, because it, you know, existed in this existential absurdist realm. I appreciate that many of Playboi Carti's fans are fans of certain substances that, despite the darkness of my lips, I have never taken part in. So with a sober mind, it's just not for me. And I also love the fact that this whole rage wave brings a lot of joy, even if it's joy I can't always appreciate in, to a lot of young black folks, specifically black boys who are finding themselves in hip hop in a way that wasn't possible back in my day. I was a young man with a lot of alt interests and nerdy tendencies. I remember wanting to grow locks in the late 90s when nobody was growing locks. I remember liking Sailor Moon when everyone else was on Dragon Ball Z or not into anime at all. As an adult teacher, the types of boys that liked Uzi and whatnot, these are the types of young men that I often bonded with the most, because I recognized their struggle and I was able to help provide perspective on it. And in doing that, that was also healing for me. So I appreciate this whole vamp thing in concept, even if the songs don't work for me. I love that they're having all of their fun in their dyed lock, septum ring, painted nail glory. Shout out to Turb and Think Peace Tribe. I think that's beautiful, even without my desire to partake. And don't mistake the nihilism of Cardi to be the overarching vibe of Gen Z, because some of the same kids that love Cardi also love No Name. It's a lot going on, and I love y'all for that. It's just not for me. One underlying element that I didn't get a lot into is Playboi Carti's appeal, and really the rage wave appeal, to somewhat queering of black masculinity. This isn't saying that these rappers themselves are gay. In fact, in practice, they often tend to be very hyper masculine, but their presentation does reject normative standards of how black men are expected to show up in the world, especially in the world of hip hop. It's one of the best things about the genre, even if it's not for me. But this is not new to hip hop. It's really a long-standing tradition in black art for men in general. And one who doesn't get enough credit for this is the late great Tupac Shakur, for which I made a video. Unfortunately, that light work made a lot of fellow old heads really mad at me, to the point where I felt like it was safer to just make it exclusive to my streaming service, Nebula. In a perfect world, I wouldn't worry about such things, but unfortunately, things don't work like that. Instead, creators like me have to pick and choose carefully what goes on YouTube because of YouTube's rules about copyright and monetization, or just because some videos, such as that video on queer coding with Tupac, present a danger to the health of the channel if a lot of people downvote it or don't like it. This makes Nebula a great place for uncensored content without like buttons or ad segments that is also uncontrolled by machines and AI that decide if my channel is good or not. That said, that's just one element of Nebula these days. If you've been around for a while, then you'll know that Nebula is now evolving into an outright film studio. In the last year or so, Nebula has made some tweaks to focus on giving its roster of over 200 talented creators the opportunity to think beyond YouTube videos. And in that time, Nebula has produced some really great stuff, like travel reality shows such as The Getaway or Jet Lag. And we even have original films like Philosophy Tube's Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend, and they're currently shooting Patrick H. Willems' Dinner Plan, starring Griffin Newman, Miriam Shore, Zach Cherry, and more. Nebula isn't just a place for content. They're pushing the entertainment industry forward, and I highly recommend you go check out my exclusive content as well as everything else they have to offer. So go to nebula.tv/signify B-sides, or you can get 40% off of Nebula, just $3 a month on the yearly plan, and get access to my exclusive videos as well as more great shows and content from my friends, as well as original films. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Shout out to Nebula for sponsoring this video. I'm FD Signifier, and this has been Light Work. Hey, double my dick. Hey, if it's a double my dick. Hey, double my dick. Hey, if it's a hey.